"I took it off, please," she sobbed. The rancher stood frozen, then made his decision. Elia's heart stood outside his domed ranch, squinting against the glare, adjusting the straps on his utility belt. Life on the outer colony was quiet, sometimes painfully so. The ranch, with its rows of bioengineered livestock and self-sustaining greenhouses, was Elia's sanctuary. He liked it that way. No crowds, no corporate offices, no politics, just the slow rhythm of life, dictated by the rise and fall of the sun and the hum of machinery. But that morning something unusual happened. A humming sound, low and steady, broke the calm. Elias paused mid-step, hand instinctively moving toward his utility holster, though it had long been empty. The hum grew louder, a sound unlike anything he had ever heard. He turned, eyes scanning the sky, and saw it. A small, sleek craft descending from the thin Martian atmosphere. It was metallic, reflective, and oddly organic in shape, like a droplet of water caught mid-fall. The craft landed softly, kicking up a small swirl of red dust that shimmered in the early sunlight. Elia's heart thumped in his chest. Visitors were rare on this part of Mars, almost non-existent. He had expected shipments and maintenance drones, but never a craft like this. Then he saw her. A figure emerged from the craft, small and fragile-looking. A girl, no older than 16, stumbled out, her movements unsteady, almost desperate. She wore a suit that glowed faintly, with threads of light running across it like veins. But the glow seemed alive, almost watching. She froze in place the moment her feet touched the ground, her eyes scanning the horizon. Elias took a cautious step forward. "Hey, you okay?" His voice was calm, but he couldn't hide the tension in it. The girl's eyes widened and she took a step back. Her hands went to the glowing suit around her body. With shaking fingers, she began removing it. Pieces clicked and hissed as she worked, and then, finally, she pulled the main section over her head. "I took it off, please," she sobbed, her voice breaking. Her words were small, almost fragile, but the desperation in them was undeniable. Elias froze. The words echoed in his mind. "Took it off, please." She wasn't attacking him. She wasn't threatening anyone. Yet there was fear, raw, undeniable fear in her expression. Hey, it's okay," Elias said slowly, raising his hands in a gesture of calm. "I'm not gonna hurt you. Come on, let's come inside." The girl hesitated, her glowing suit now completely deactivated and lying in a pile of soft sparks at her feet. She looked at him, as if weighing his words. Finally, she nodded slightly and allowed him to guide her toward the ranch dome. Inside, Elias settled her into a chair and offered a cup of recycled water. She took it with trembling hands, clutching it like a lifeline. I don't know if they'll find me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. They always know. The suit, it made me." Elias leaned back in his chair, trying to digest the words. "The suit, it made me." The glow from the discarded suit still pulsed faintly on the floor, almost as if it were alive, watching. Who are they?" he asked carefully. The girl swallowed hard, avoiding his gaze. "The corporation. They made me wear it. It's not me if it's on." Her hands shook as she gestured toward the suit. I can't think right. I can't move right. It's like I'm not myself." Elias' mind raced. The colony had strict regulations against uncontrolled technology and experimentation on humans. The thought that someone had been experimenting with a human, or worse, using them as a tool, made his stomach turn. "All right," he said finally, his voice firm. "You're safe here. No one's coming for you, I'll make sure of that." The girl, Lyra, she finally told him her name, looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. Slowly, a flicker of hope appeared, fragile but undeniable. For hours, they sat in silence. Elias watched her, trying to understand. She was different from anyone he had ever met, and yet profoundly human in every gesture, every glance. There was fear, yes, but there was also curiosity and intelligence. So much intelligence packed into someone so young. As the hours passed, Elias showed her around the ranch. She observed the bio-livestock with wide eyes, fascinated by the way the animals had been engineered to thrive in Martian conditions. She asked questions, innumerable questions, about the equipment, the life support systems, the greenhouses. Elias found himself smiling. In all his years, he had never met anyone who could match his curiosity. She was learning, absorbing everything, asking questions that forced him to think in new ways. By evening, the tension between them had eased slightly. Lyra still seemed wary, but she trusted him enough to sit at the dinner table with him, eating simple rations of protein paste and vegetable cubes. "Why? Why did you help me?" she asked softly, almost afraid to hear the answer. Elias shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Because anyone who's in trouble, anyone who's scared, deserves a chance. That's what humans do. We help each other. That's who we are." Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the soft lights of the dome. I never had anyone like that before." Elias felt a pang in his chest. He had lived alone for years, and now, in a way, he was learning what it meant to truly connect with someone. To care for another being, not as a duty, not as a job, but because it was the right thing to do. The night fell over the Martian plains, and the soft hum of the ranch systems filled the air. Outside, the wind swept across the red dust, whispering through the domes. Elias and Lyra sat in quiet companionship, the beginnings of trust and understanding forming between them. But somewhere far away, the corporation had detected a disturbance. A signal had been lost. Their machine, a sleek, autonomous drone, was beginning to search for the missing subject. They did not yet know where she was, but they would find out. Elias did not know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. He looked at Lyra and she looked back. In that moment, neither of them spoke, but an unspoken promise was made. He would protect her. She would learn to trust him. Together, they would face whatever came next. And somewhere in the glowing sparks of the discarded suit, a faint pulse lingered, as if the suit itself knew that its control had ended, at least for now. Elias Hart, rancher of the outer Martian colony, had never imagined he would become a guardian of human ingenuity and hope. But as he watched Lyra drift into a light, exhausted sleep, he realized that perhaps the quiet life he had once cherished was no longer enough. There was something bigger waiting for them, something extraordinary. And tomorrow, he would begin the work of keeping it alive. The morning sun rose slowly over the Martian plains, casting long shadows across Elias Hart's ranch. The wind had calmed overnight, leaving the red dust soft and still. Inside the dome, Elias stirred from his sleep, careful not to wake Lyra, who had curled up in a corner with a thin blanket over her shoulders. Her breathing was even, but the faint lines of worry on her forehead showed she had not truly rested. Elias quietly moved to the small workstation by the wall. His tools were scattered neatly across the table: calibration wrenches, diagnostic pads, and spare circuits. He glanced at the discarded suit lying in the corner, its faint glow pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Something about it made the air in the room feel heavier, almost alive. Lyra stirred and opened her eyes. "Good morning," she said quietly, her voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "Morning," Elias replied with a small smile. "Did you sleep okay?" I think so," she admitted. She glanced at the suit. "It's still there," Elias nodded. "I need to understand what it is. Maybe I can help you get rid of the rest of its influence." Lyra's eyes widened, a flicker of hope appearing. You really think you can?" "I don't know yet," he said honestly. "But humans are good at figuring things out. We adapt, we think, we invent. That's what makes us us." She considered his words, then slowly nodded. "Okay, I'll try." They spent the morning examining the suit. Lyra explained as best she could how it worked. The suit had been designed to monitor her movements, control certain impulses, and even guide her decisions when the corporation needed compliance. It had sensors embedded deep in the fabric that read her brain's signals, sending data back to a control center somewhere across the stars. "It's like it listens to me," she said quietly. "Like it knows what I want before I do." Elias frowned as he examined the glowing circuits. It's advanced, far beyond anything we've built here, but even advanced machines can be tricked. They work on rules, they have limits. Lyra's eyes shone with a mixture of relief and curiosity. Rules, limits. Exactly, Elias said. If we can figure out the rules it follows, we can find a way to override it, or at least stop it from controlling you. Hours passed as they worked together. Lyra's knowledge of the suit's internal systems was invaluable. She could describe how each thread of light and each microchip affected her movements and thoughts. Elias, with his practical experience, found ways to disable the suit's sensors without damaging the device completely. It was delicate work. One wrong move could alert the corporation, but they were careful. During a break, Lyra wandered to the greenhouse. She touched the leaves of the genetically modified plants gently, marveling at how life could grow in such a harsh environment. "You've made this place alive," she said softly. "It's beautiful." Elias followed her. "We humans are stubborn. We can make life survive almost anywhere if we try hard enough." Lyra smiled faintly. "I want to learn how. I want to survive here too." Elias nodded, feeling a surge of pride. The girl was resilient, capable of learning quickly and, more importantly, willing to trust him. Trust was rare on Mars, especially in the outer colonies, and he understood how valuable it was. By midday, they had made progress. Several of the suit's control circuits had been disabled, and Lyra could move without feeling the subtle influence that had gripped her so tightly. She tested her movements carefully, flexing her fingers, bending, stretching, and walking across the floor. Each step felt more like her own, less like a puppet guided by the suit. I can think," she said finally, almost in disbelief. "I'm me," Elias smiled. "See, human mind, stronger than any machine." They ate a simple meal together in the afternoon, sitting side by side at the metal table. Lyra's curiosity grew with each bite. She asked about the livestock, the equipment, the Martian environment. Elias answered patiently, explaining how the bioengineered animals had been adapted to survive with limited water, how solar panels powered the domes, and how humans had learned to turn barren soil into fertile ground. "You really can make anything work if you understand it," she said, eyes wide. "That's humanity," Elias replied. "We figure things out, we build, we survive." The evening brought a new challenge. As they worked on understanding the remaining circuits, Lyra suddenly flinched. The suit, even disabled, pulsed faintly on the floor as though it were aware of their progress. A soft hum filled the dome, subtle but insistent, almost like a whisper. "It's trying to warn me," Lyra said, eyes wide with alarm. "I can feel it." Elias frowned, leaning closer to the suit. "Machines can't feel, but they can respond to signals. Maybe it's trying to protect itself. That's fine, we'll be smarter." For hours, they carefully isolated the active circuits. Elias improvised small shields from spare metal panels, rerouting the energy and dampening the suit's sensors. Lyra assisted, her hands steady despite the lingering fear. Together, they made progress, two humans using logic, observation, and patience to outwit a machine designed to control one of them. Night fell again, painting the red landscape outside in deep shades of burgundy. Lyra sat by the window, staring at the stars through the dome. "Do you think they'll come for me?" she asked softly. "They might," Elias admitted. "But if they do, we'll be ready. We're human. We adapt, we plan, and we use our minds. That's our strength." Lyra thought about his words, and for the first time she felt a glimmer of hope. The suit no longer held her completely, and she was learning to rely on her own abilities, guided by Elias' experience and wisdom. Elias felt something stir in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Protectiveness, yes, but also admiration. She was clever, observant, and courageous in ways that surpassed his expectations. Humanity, he realized, was not just about strength or survival. It was about ingenuity, trust, and learning to act even when fear was present. They continued their work over the next several days, each small victory bringing a sense of accomplishment. Lyra learned to operate some of the ranch's machinery, to care for the livestock, and to analyze simple circuits. Elias marveled at her ability to grasp complex systems so quickly. Together, they formed a rhythm, a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. One afternoon, while Elias was calibrating a set of solar collectors outside, Lyra approached him with a small device she had managed to assemble from spare parts. "I think I can make this," she said proudly. "It might block the suit's signal if it activates again." Elias examined the device, impressed. "That's clever. Let's test it carefully." They spent hours designing a simple signal jammer. It was crude by interstellar standards, but it worked. Lyra watched in awe as the soft hum from the suit diminished, fading until it was almost silent. "I did it," she whispered. "We did it." "Yes," Elias said with a warm smile. "Humans do things like this. We solve problems. We survive." As the sun set, painting the sky in deep crimson and gold, they sat outside the dome, watching the wind sweep across the plains. There was a quiet joy in the air, a sense of accomplishment and a growing bond between them. But somewhere far away, a faint signal pinged in a distant control center. The corporation had noticed irregular activity. Their machine, small and relentless, had already begun moving through space toward the outer colony. They would not rest until their subject was returned. Elias did not yet know this, and Lyra was unaware of the danger approaching. But together, they had begun a journey of discovery, ingenuity, and trust. A journey that would test their wits and show that humans, even in the most isolated corners of the universe, were capable of incredible things. As night fell over the Martian plains, Lyra leaned against Elia's shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." Elias placed a hand gently on hers. "You don't need to thank me. We're humans, that's what we do, and together we're stronger than anything they can send." The stars shimmered overhead, distant and cold, but the warmth inside the dome was undeniable. Two humans, facing uncertainty, using their minds, their hearts, and their courage to navigate a world that was not always kind, but a world they could shape with their own hands. And for the first time, Lyra felt something she had never known before: freedom. The Martian morning was crisp, and the thin air carried a faint metallic scent, a reminder of the planet's harshness. Elia's heart stood outside the dome, hands on his hips, watching the bioengineered livestock graze in the open pen. Each animal moved carefully, adapted to the sparse environment, resilient like the humans who tended them. Lyra stepped out behind him, her hair catching the early sunlight. She had slept well for the first time in weeks, her body no longer under the influence of the suit. There was a sense of energy in her movements, a lightness that Elias hadn't seen before. "I think I understand them now," Lyra said, crouching beside a small calf with patchy fur. She traced her fingers along the animal's soft hide, studying it carefully. "They have their own instincts, but you've helped them survive here. You've made them clever." Elias nodded. "We humans learn by observing and adapting. Animals, plants, even machines, they respond if we understand them. That's why we survive. That's what makes us different." Lyra smiled faintly. "I want to be like that strong, clever human." "You already are," Elias said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "But strength isn't just about muscle. It's about your mind, your heart, your choices." The day began with lessons in survival. Elias showed Lyra how to monitor the dome's atmosphere, check water recycling systems, and adjust energy flow to maximize efficiency. She listened intently, her bright eyes following his every movement. When a minor malfunction occurred in one of the solar panels, Lyra analyzed the problem before Elias could even finish explaining it. "You could have fixed it yourself," Elias said, impressed. "I wanted to see if I could," she admitted. "I want to learn, not just follow." Elias smiled. This was the essence of humanity: curiosity, persistence, and a desire to improve. Lyra's determination reminded him of why humans thrived in places others considered uninhabitable. Later, they worked with the livestock. Elias demonstrated how to guide the animals without force, using gentle gestures and understanding their behavior. Lyra tried it herself, crouching and speaking softly to a stubborn sheep. To her delight, the animal followed her lead, trusting her in a way it had not before. "They listen to me," she said, astonished. "I think I understand them." "You do," Elias confirmed. "Humans survive by noticing patterns, learning, and adjusting. You've already learned one of the most important lessons. Trust and empathy can accomplish more than fear or control." Lunch was a quiet affair, a small tray of protein paste and hydroponic vegetables. Lyra ate slowly, savoring the flavors. "Everything here, it's different from the corporation," she said. "Back there, they only care about results, about control. Here, you care about life." Elias nodded. "That's humanity. We build, we nurture, and we protect. Machines can't do that. Only humans can make choices based on more than logic, on hope, compassion, and understanding." The afternoon brought new challenges. A minor storm swept across the Martian plains, red dust swirling violently against the dome. Elias and Lyra secured the livestock, reinforcing pens and checking the dome's integrity. Lyra worked quickly, anticipating what needed to be done, and for the first time, Elias realized she was no longer just following instructions. She was thinking, adapting, and acting independently. When the storm passed, they surveyed the ranch. Small damage had occurred, but the animals were safe and the greenhouse systems had held. Lyra looked around, pride evident in her eyes. "I did it," she said softly, almost to herself. "I helped. I survived." "You didn't just survive," Elias said. "You contributed." That's what being human is about, more than endurance, more than obedience. It's about making life better for others. Evening approached, and the red sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the plains. Elias and Lyra sat outside the dome, watching the wind carry dust across the open landscape. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with understanding rather than words. After a moment, Lyra spoke. "Do you ever feel lonely?" Elias considered her question. "I did. Before you came. Out here, life is quiet. You get used to it. But loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about not having someone to share your thoughts, your work, your victories. That's why I welcomed you. Humans need connection. It's part of what makes us strong." Lyra looked at him, a faint smile on her lips. I think I understand. Connection, trust, that's strength." "Yes," Elias said, "and now you're learning it firsthand." Night fell over the Martian plains and the dome glowed softly in the darkness. Lyra had become more than just a guest or a survivor. She was a partner, a student, and a reflection of the ingenuity and resilience that made humans remarkable. Over the next few days, Elias began teaching her more complex skills. She learned to repair broken machinery, manage energy flow, and even troubleshoot small systems autonomously. She watched, observed, and experimented, often coming up with clever solutions that surprised even Elias. One afternoon, while working on a water recycling unit, Lyra discovered a minor fault that had gone unnoticed for weeks. With Elias' guidance, she not only repaired it but improved its efficiency. "I didn't just fix it," she said proudly. "I made it better." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling. "That's human ingenuity. We don't just survive, we improve, we adapt. That's what makes humans capable of extraordinary things." Lyra's confidence grew with each small success. She learned to guide the livestock, manage the greenhouse systems, and even plan maintenance schedules. Elias watched her, realizing that she had not only survived but thrived, using the same traits that had allowed humans to conquer harsh environments across planets and centuries. One evening, as the red sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra sat with Elias and looked out over the plains. "Do you think I could really belong here?" she asked quietly. "You already do," Elias replied. Belonging isn't about where you are. It's about what you contribute, how you think, and how you care. You've done all of that. Lyra's eyes shone in the fading light. For the first time, she felt a sense of permanence, a sense that she could build a life on her own terms. She wasn't just a subject of the corporation anymore. She was a human, capable of learning, contributing, and creating. The sense of peace was temporary, though. Far beyond the horizon in the cold emptiness of space, the corporation had detected the disturbance. Their automated systems had begun tracking the missing subject. Soon, they would arrive at the outer colony, seeking to reclaim Lyra. Elias did not yet know, and Lyra was unaware. But the seeds of preparation were already planted. They had learned to work together, to rely on human ingenuity and intuition rather than brute force. Whatever came, they would face it as humans, clever, adaptive, and resilient. As the Martian night deepened, Lyra leaned against Elias, feeling a quiet strength she had never known before. "I'm ready," she whispered. Elias nodded. "So am I. Humans never give up. We never stop learning, and together we can face anything." The stars above shone cold and distant, yet inside the dome, a warm light glowed. Two humans, bound by trust and understanding, were learning to thrive in a world that demanded adaptation, ingenuity, and courage. And for the first time, Lyra truly understood what it meant to be free, not just from the suit, but free to be human. The Martian morning began with an unusual stillness. Elia's heart noticed it immediately as he stepped outside the dome. The usual hum of distant machinery and the faint calls of bioengineered animals seemed muted, almost as if the world itself was holding its breath. Lyra emerged behind him, brushing red dust from her clothes. "Something feels different," she said softly, her eyes scanning the horizon. Elias nodded. "I think you're right. Keep watch while I check the systems." He walked to the main control panel inside the dome, his fingers flying over switches and sensors. The readings were normal, yet a subtle anomaly caught his eye, a faint signal in the outer communications array. "That's new," he muttered, adjusting the receiver. The signal was weak, erratic, but it carried the unmistakable signature of the corporation, precise, methodical, and designed to locate their lost subject, Lyra. Lyra's face paled. "They're coming." "Yes," Elias said calmly, though his mind raced. "But we can handle this. We've been preparing without even knowing it." The rest of the morning was a flurry of preparation. Elias and Lyra worked together, devising clever ways to protect the ranch and themselves. They didn't need weapons. They had human ingenuity, knowledge of the terrain, and an understanding of how to manipulate technology. That was enough. Elias began with the livestock. He instructed Lyra to guide the animals into hidden pens covered with holographic camo sheets. The creatures blended seamlessly with the Martian landscape, their adaptive fur reflecting the red dust. Lyra moved with precision, using gentle gestures and soft commands. The animals obeyed her completely, a testament to the trust she had built with them over the past weeks. Next, they worked on the ranch's perimeter. Using reflective panels, holographic projectors, and strategically placed decoy machinery, they created illusions to mislead any drone that might approach. "Humans survive because we can think creatively," Elias explained as they worked. "Machines rely on patterns and logic. If we break their patterns, they become confused." Lyra nodded, her fingers deftly connecting circuits and aligning projectors. "So, we trick them." "Like a puzzle." "Yes," Elias said with a smile. "Exactly like a puzzle." By midday, the first sign of the corporation arrived. A small drone appeared on the horizon, sleek and metallic, moving with silent precision across the plains. Its sensors scanned the area relentlessly, searching for the source of the disturbance. Lyra's heart raced, but she remained calm. It's like the suit," she whispered. "It watches everything." Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Yes, but this time we control the situation. Remember what we learned. Observe, adapt, and use your environment. That's how humans survive. The drone drew closer, and Elias triggered the first set of holographic decoys. Machines moved with logic, but they could be misled by false patterns. The drone scanned one decoy, then another, its sensors misled by carefully manipulated reflections of the landscape. Lyra watched in awe as the drone faltered, confused by the illusions. "It's working," she exclaimed. It doesn't know where we are." Elias smiled, though he remained cautious. "Don't celebrate yet. It's smart but not human. We need one more step." Together, they activated a series of adaptive camouflage panels around the main dome. The panels reflected the Martian surface so perfectly that the structure almost disappeared against the plains. Even the solar collectors and greenhouse domes blended seamlessly. The drone moved closer, scanning diligently, but it could not detect the real ranch. Lyra held her breath, watching every movement. She realized then how humans could outthink machines, how creativity, observation, and patience could overcome raw technological power. It was a lesson she would never forget. Hours passed and the drone continued its search, systematically analyzing the holographic illusions and reflective decoys. Elias and Lyra stayed hidden, monitoring its movements through remote sensors. Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, "Humans are clever." "Yes," Elias replied. "That's what makes us strong. Not weapons, not machines, but our minds." By late afternoon, the drone began to withdraw, confused and unable to find its target. Elias exhaled a long breath of relief. "It won't be back immediately, but it will learn from this. We need to stay ready." Lyra looked at him, a mixture of pride and awe in her eyes. "We did it together." "Yes," Elias said, "together." Evening fell over the Martian plains, casting long shadows across the red dust. Elias and Lyra sat outside the dome, sharing a quiet moment of victory. The ranch was safe, the animals secure, and the technology that once threatened Lyra had been outsmarted using nothing more than human ingenuity. "I've never felt proud like this before," Lyra admitted, her voice soft. "Not just for surviving, but for doing something meaningful." "That's human nature," Elias said. "We don't just survive, we create, we improve, we protect. You've learned that now. And you've applied it brilliantly." Lyra smiled faintly, her gaze turning toward the distant horizon. "Do you think they'll come back?" "They might," Elias said, "but we'll be ready. Humans adapt, humans learn, and together humans can do things no machine can anticipate." Night fell and the Martian sky shimmered with stars, distant and cold. Yet inside the dome, a warm glow filled the room. Elias and Lyra had faced their first challenge together, and had succeeded without violence, without fear taking control. They had relied on their minds, their ingenuity, and their trust in each other. Lyra lay down on a cot, exhaustion settling over her. "Tomorrow we continue?" she asked. "Yes," Elias replied, watching her drift toward sleep. "Tomorrow we continue. We keep learning, keep adapting, and stay human. That's our strength." In the quiet of the dome, the hum of the systems was steady and reassuring. Outside, the wind whispered across the plains, carrying dust that shimmered in the starlight. And somewhere, far in space, the corporation was analyzing the drone's failure, unaware that human ingenuity had already given its subject a new life and a chance to survive on her own terms. Lyra slept peacefully that night, free from the influence of the suit, her mind clear and unbound. She had learned a crucial lesson. Humans were not defined by the machines that tried to control them, nor by the obstacles that threatened them, but by their ability to think, adapt, and create solutions even in the most impossible situations. Elias watched over her, his thoughts reflecting on the past days. He had once lived a quiet life, believing that survival was enough. Now he understood that survival was only the beginning. Humans thrived not by hiding, not by fearing the unknown, but by using their minds, hearts, and courage to shape their world. Together they had proven it. The night stretched on, the stars moving slowly across the Martian sky. The drone had been defeated, but Elias knew it would return eventually, and so would others. But he also knew something more important. Humans, when united by trust, understanding, and ingenuity, were unstoppable. And tomorrow, they would continue to prove it once again. The Martian morning light spilled across the red plains, casting long shadows over the domed ranch. Elia's heart stood at the edge of the pens, watching the bioengineered livestock move gracefully across the dusty terrain. The animals had learned to trust Lyra's gentle commands, following her lead as she guided them with quiet confidence. Lyra emerged from the dome, her face bright with determination. "It's a good day," she said softly, scanning the horizon. "No drones, no signals, just us." Elias smiled. "It's quiet now, but we can't be careless. The corporation won't give up easily. They learn fast, but so do we," Lyra nodded. "Then we keep learning, we adapt, together." Their partnership had grown stronger over the past weeks. What had started as survival had become something more: trust, mutual respect, and the shared joy of discovery. Elias had taught Lyra the ways of the ranch, but she had also taught him to see beyond routine, to embrace curiosity and creativity with renewed energy. After breakfast, Elias and Lyra set about their daily tasks. The dome systems required maintenance, the livestock needed feeding and monitoring, and the greenhouses demanded careful attention. But today, they approached their work with a sense of purpose, knowing that each action was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Lyra moved through the greenhouse, examining plants that had been genetically adapted to survive Martian conditions. "You've done something amazing here," she said softly. "Life thrives where it shouldn't." "That's humans for you," Elias replied. "We find ways to make life better, even in impossible places. We learn, we build, and we never give up." Lyra paused, brushing her fingers over the leaves. "I want to help more. I want to make it even better." "You already are," Elias said. "Your mind, your ideas, they're part of this place now. Together, we can accomplish far more than any machine or suit could ever imagine." As the day progressed, Lyra took the lead on several tasks. She repaired minor faults in the water recycling system, adjusted solar panel alignments for maximum efficiency, and even suggested a new arrangement for the livestock pens that improved their grazing patterns. Elias watched with pride, realizing that she had transformed from a frightened, controlled girl into a clever, independent thinker. By afternoon, a faint ripple appeared on the communications monitor, an alert that another drone had been deployed. Elias and Lyra exchanged a quick glance. It was time. "Ready?" Elias asked. Lyra nodded. "We've learned a lot, let's do this." They activated their plan. Using a combination of holographic decoys, reflective panels, and controlled disturbances, they created an intricate pattern designed to mislead the approaching drone. Elias guided the livestock to positions that disrupted sensor readings, while Lyra fine-tuned the projectors and camouflage panels. Every move was deliberate, calculated, and precise. The drone appeared on the horizon, moving silently but purposefully. It scanned the plains, but the illusions confused it. Reflections of dust and light, shifting holograms, and the strategic placement of animals created an environment no machine could easily navigate. The drone hesitated, paused, and then changed direction, searching again. Lyra's hands flew across the controls. "It's working, it can't find us," Elias nodded. "Stay focused, keep adjusting. Humans adapt, machines don't." Hours passed, and the drone struggled to make sense of the chaos. Each time it approached a potential target, the environment shifted. The animals moved subtly, the holograms flickered, and reflective panels cast confusing patterns across the plains. Slowly, the drone's efficiency began to fail. It scanned, analyzed, and recalculated, but every step led it further from the real ranch. Finally, after hours of careful maneuvering, the drone retreated. Elias and Lyra watched as it disappeared beyond the horizon, unable to complete its mission. "We did it," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "We really did it." "Yes," Elias said, smiling. "Humans are capable of incredible things when we work together. Ingenuity, trust, and patience, that's our strength." They spent the evening repairing minor damage from their clever maneuvers and reinforcing the ranch's systems. Every adjustment, every improvement, was a testament to human resilience. They had faced a technologically superior force and won, not through violence, but through observation, strategy, and creativity. Night fell over the Martian plains, and the sky shimmered with distant stars. Lyra stood outside the dome, gazing upward. "Do you think there's more like me out there?" she asked. Elias considered her question. "Maybe, but humans are everywhere. And wherever humans go, we adapt, we survive, and we make life thrive. You've already proven that one person can make a difference." Lyra smiled faintly. "I feel free now, not just from the suit, but free to choose who I am, what I can do, thanks to you." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "No thanks needed. You've done the work yourself. You've learned, adapted, and created. That's what humans do best." The days that followed were filled with routine and discovery. Lyra continued to learn and contribute, her skills growing rapidly. She improved greenhouse efficiency, optimized livestock grazing patterns, and even experimented with new ways to harvest water from the thin Martian atmosphere. Elias watched with pride as her confidence blossomed. One morning, as they surveyed the plains, Lyra spoke softly. "Elias, I don't want to leave. This place, it's home. I want to stay. I want to help build something here, something lasting." Elias' chest tightened. He had once lived a quiet, solitary life, but now he realized that he didn't want to be alone. "You can stay," he said gently. "This place, it's ours to build together. You're part of it now." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but of joy. "Thank you for trusting me, for teaching me, for letting me be human." "You've always been human," Elias said. "You just needed a chance to realize it for yourself." Together, they expanded the ranch. Lyra's ideas and Elias' experience created a thriving ecosystem. Crops grew more efficiently, livestock thrived, and the domes became models of sustainable life on Mars. Word of their success reached other colonies, inspiring humans across the planet to innovate and collaborate in ways they had never imagined. As months passed, the corporation no longer attempted to retrieve Lyra. They had underestimated human creativity and perseverance. Their machines were clever, but humans had something no machine could replicate: intuition, empathy, and the ability to adapt in ways that defied predictable logic. Elias and Lyra stood atop a small hill overlooking the ranch one evening, watching the sun dip below the Martian horizon. The plains stretched endlessly, a canvas of red dust and shadows, but within the domes, life thrived. The livestock grazed peacefully, the greenhouses glowed softly, and a sense of harmony filled the air. "We did it," Lyra said, her voice soft but confident. "We survived, we thrived, we built something lasting." "Yes," Elias replied, "humans do that. We learn, we adapt, and we create, and together we're unstoppable." Lyra leaned against him, feeling the warmth of trust and companionship. For the first time in her life, she felt truly free, free to think, free to act, free to be human. The stars shone overhead, distant and cold, yet within the domes a new kind of light glimmered, the light of hope, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit of humanity. And on the Martian plains, two humans stood together, ready to face whatever the universe might bring, confident in the power of their minds, hearts, and courage. They had proven that even in the harshest conditions, humans could not only survive, they could thrive. This was not just a victory over machines or distant corporations. It was a celebration of what humans could achieve when they trusted each other, relied on their intelligence, and refused to give up. Elias smiled at Lyra, and she smiled back. Together they had built a future, not dictated by others, but shaped by their own hands and minds. A future where life could flourish, and where human ingenuity and compassion were the guiding force. As night enveloped the plains, the domes glowed softly, a beacon of human resilience on a distant world. And within, Lyra and Elias dreamed of new possibilities, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as humans, clever, adaptive, and unstoppable.